I bet many of you have heard about the popular pawpaw tree, but few have actually been able to enjoy the flavor of the fruit. Today I want to introduce you to a couple of pawpaw trees that we have here growing at the Botanic Garden that are starting to produce fruit as we go into September. And so it's kind of exciting around here because a lot of us are anxious to try this fruit. So a little bit about the background on pawpaw is the pawpaw is a native fruiting tree that's native all the way from Florida over to Texas, all the way up into New York and even into southern Ontario. So being a tree that's hardy to zones 5 and liking acidic soil, it actually does really well in eastern Oklahoma specifically. It tends to want to grow in shaded areas because as a young tree, it likes to kind of be in that understory where it can get some protection from sun exposure. However, once it does get larger, it does prefer to have a little bit more full sun exposure. You can see here we've got it planted under a few trees that we might have to be limbing up pretty soon as they continue to grow taller. But they're doing quite well. They've been here for a couple of years. And the other thing about the sun exposure, that can kind of play into what the shape of the tree will actually look like. So when it is in more of a shady condition, you're going to see that the branch structure is a little bit more open, and that's so that the leaves can actually spread out a little bit more to get more exposure to sunlight, versus if it's growing in full sun, you're going to have more of a pyramidal shape of that tree where the branches go all the way down to the ground. So in native areas, you will also find that the pawpaw will often kind of sucker, and so you'll get these pawpaw patches almost. And they'll actually produce fruit, but a lot of times that fruit will quickly drop to the ground, and so you might be competing with animals for it at that point. But the neat thing here is this actual fruit. This is what we're after. And you can see it grows on clusters, in clusters here on the tree. And it almost looks like a giant green potato growing on the tree here. Now it will stay green, so you can't necessarily go based off of the color as to when it's ripe. You're just gonna kind of feel of it, and it'll sort of feel like a ripe peach. So it'll be slightly firm, but also slightly soft a little bit. And it should be able to break off pretty easily in your hand. Now the reason why a lot of people haven't actually tasted a pawpaw is because they don't have much of a shelf life. And so it's really, you got to be around when they're ripe to be able to eat them. You do not want to eat the flesh or the seeds that you'll find inside. So when you cut one of these open, they have some rather large dark colored seeds that are in there. It can actually kind of make it difficult to cut into it. But the flesh inside of there that you're going to find is actually a bright yellow flesh, and it kind of contrasts with those seeds nicely. And it has sort of a banana mango flavor to it, and it's kind of got a custardy texture a little bit as well. Now adding to that tropical taste of the fruit, you'll see that it actually has really large leaves also. So you're going to get more of a tropical foliage with this tree as well. Now it will reach to be about a height of about 25 feet. And so you want to make sure to give it plenty of room. And again, those fruit come from the flowers that are born earlier on in the spring, and they're sort of a burgundy, kind of a brownish color. They almost look like bells that are hanging in the tree. You might not really notice them because they're only about an inch in diameter. Now once those flowers are pollinated, then they will bear these fruits later on in the end of summertime. Now, they have relatively few pest problems, and in fact, they actually are a host plant for the zebra swallowtail. So you might find that there are some caterpillars that are feeding on the young foliage, the newer foliage of the pawpaw, but make sure to check those caterpillars because they might be those beautiful zebra swallowtails that we always enjoy in the garden later on. Now going back to the pollination a little bit, you want to make sure if you're planting a pawpaw in your garden, you want to make sure that you're planting 2 pawpaws because they are not compatible to self-pollinate, which means you have to have 2 genetically different trees in order for them to cross-pollinate. And so that's an important factor to be able to have that fruit that you're after later in the season. So if you're looking for a fun, unique fruit tree to add to your garden here in Oklahoma, you might look at adding 2 pawpaw trees.
We hope you enjoyed this video as part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel.
You can also find even more videos on the OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.